Hi, I'm Steve Towns. I'm Deputy Chief Content Officer for eRepublik. Welcome to our Q&A with Cisco's Mark Moffett. Mark is CTO and Senior Director of Engineering and Architecture for U.S. Public Sector at Cisco Systems. He leads a team of more than 500 systems engineers and architects that are dedicated to solving the business challenges of government and education customers, both directly and through partners. Mark, welcome to the conversation. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
So today I know we want to talk about cloud. I think one of the big lessons out of the pandemic really was that cloud technologies can support agility and resilience, and it's driving some real acceleration of cloud deployment in government and education. Maybe we start maybe the first question is, in this current cloud smart evolution that we're seeing, what do we need to consider that can enable an easier transition to cloud?
Yeah, Steve, great question. And thanks again for having me today. I think the first thing we'll think about is absolutely, the last 15, 16 months, good grief, the days and months have run together here. Have forced some rapid movement, and to your point, cloud delivered assets and as a service type models have certainly allowed all of our agencies to move very quickly. The challenge is it wasn't planned, and you know how that goes, especially when you think about the enterprise and all of the things that have to happen and the lengthy planning processes. But I think the cool thing that did emerge was the fact that agility became everybody's new superpower, if you will. So we learned that in spite of ourselves, we can move very rapidly. So I think what really emerged and what we have to think about with this whole cloud smart movement is, first of all, we were able to move faster than we thought, which means if we start to rethink or reimagine how we deliver services, certainly there's a lot of history here over the last several months that's taught us that we can really do that. The thing is, though, is when you escape the four walls of our traditional data centers, especially for government who's servicing the needs of our residents, and we're trying to protect data. The problem is you lose security insights, you lose visibility into what's happening with your applications, your data, all those things, and so you move in this hyper distributed environment now where your IT infrastructure just vastly exploded, if you would. You've got service providers, colo providers, you've got SaaS providers, you've got infrastructure as a service and platform as a service providers like AWS and other players like that. So I think the thing we all have to really think about is architecting networks and applications has radically changed. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit, but it's how do you reimagine, if you will? That's kind of a word we love to use now at Cisco, or rethink. How you've not only reimagined applications, that's kind of priority number one our customers have shared with us. The second thing is, how do you empower your teams to work differently, knowing that most of us are going to be in some sort of a hybrid mode now 100% of the time. That doesn't mean all day, every week, but in some form or fashion. We've got to secure the enterprise. And then lastly, we really have to transform the infrastructure. So those are the four key priorities. And then we'll talk a little bit about, what can happen as we transition into this cloud-based era.
Yeah, Mark, let's dig into those, maybe sort of one by one. I mean, first of all, what do organizations need to know about how, you mentioned applications are being reimagined for a cloud environment. What do government organizations need to know about kind of this new paradigm?
Well, Steve, we've been talking about IT modernization for a really long time, and typically that's been hyper focused on the applications. And remarkably, even with the federal executive orders that have come out recently, address the tech modernization fund for federal government. But of course, those same things are happening in state and local governments as well. We're sitting on old applications that are very monolithic. They're hard to change. And with all of that comes the difficulty of rewriting and re-architecting those. But as you reimagine those apps, you do start to think about, okay, what's new? And what's new are containers and microservices. And that is flexibly deploying your applications in much smaller bites, if you will, from a container perspective, and then running those single microservices, just like they're called, not in one place, but multiple places to get efficiency, to help your developers rapidly develop code. The applications can now be built more quickly, but also you can take a service down and not disrupt the entire app. So that speed and agility and moving those things out into the cloud offer great ability. But the challenge with that now is no longer is that application sitting inside your data center. So from a security perspective, how do you secure that? We're all familiar with DMZs and how you host things in a demilitarized zone, so to speak, so that outside users and inside users can use those services appropriately. But what happens when you distribute those not only in a single cloud, but you distribute them in multiple containers and multiple microservices that may be in fact sitting in a lot of different places? So the whole security dynamic changes in a major way.
Yeah.
And so that's the reimagining your apps. And then when you think about, I think by 2024, the number that's been thrown around is 500 million new applications will be developed. And most of them obviously are being developed with this new methodology. And many of them will do a great job for, again, resident services, education, all those things we do from government. But it's going to radically change how we not only develop applications, but how we think about connecting to those apps, securing those apps, and then really providing that optimum application experience that keeps people happy and coming back for more.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the foundation or the IT infrastructure underlying this new environment. What needs to change there in order to, like you said, connect these new applications, secure them, and automate some of the components?
Sure. Well, the first thing I'll say is when you think about connecting in this, again, cloud smart areas, there's really the three foundational areas. Is connectivity looks very different. We're typically, outside of the campus. If you're remote or at a branch, you're going to come in directly into the campus, get treatment, get security treatment, and then go into the local data center and grab that data. However, now, if that application's sitting in a cloud provider somewhere, why would you do that? Why not just route that traffic directly to the application? That gives you less bandwidth requirements, if you will, at the data center head end. It gives the customer a more rapid experience by application that app more directly. So technologies like software-defined WAN, which we deliver through Meraki and Viptela, for example, give you that connection piece. And then when you get the person, and we often forget about the things, right? Because the things are going to outnumber the people. So the Internet of Things is a big part of this. So you got the person or the thing onboarded, if you will, but now you've got to think about how to secure that traffic. And typically, again, we've done that locally with network security, like network firewalls, intrusion prevention, email security, those type things. Well, again, if that service resides in the cloud, why would you come back to a central data center? Why not just get that treatment locally and its route to, to the path to directly that service? So technology enabled by Secure Access Services Edge, we do that with Umbrella SIG. And again, our SD-WAN product, that gets you the security treatment that you're looking for. And then the visibility piece is very important. It's how do you see what's happening outside of the four walls? And we call it full stack observability. I think it's a pretty cool name, but just think about those eyes and ears on the ground, so to speak, when that workload is not only inside your campus, but once it traverses outside, how do you see what's happening, not only at the network level, and we use Thousand Eyes to do that, but also at the application level. Things like AppD give you that capability. So with that combination of a new way to connect, a new way to secure, and obviously that observability piece, you really start to get insights into what's happening, and you're able to deliver that functionality safely, securely, and efficiently for the end user. And you get that top quality app experience.
Mm-hmm. Mark, you already touched on the fact that so much of the shift that's going on is being driven by remote work, and this idea that, like you said, I mean, none of us are going to work the same way we used to. I mean, we're going to have this hybrid in office, out of office, work from anywhere model, and that includes government. Do you want to talk about how really that new model is going to impact the enterprise approach to security as we kind of make this permanent?
Sure, and look, a lot of people too, Steve, are forgetting about the fact, we're all in the SASE hype cycle, and what I mean by that, we should be in the hype cycle, but we can't be so far out on that SASE edge that we forget that there are a lot of assets within the campus that have to be protected that SASE is not helping you with. So I mentioned IoT earlier, right? Those devices, they don't have a unified client. They don't have localized malware detection, a lot of that type stuff. So you really got to think about security more from a security in depth perspective, right? SASE is certainly giving you that workload protection as you go from, again, say a remote user coming in over SD-WAN directly into that SASE cloud and out to its ultimate destination. And application may live, in whatever provider, if it's a SaaS app like an Office 365, that works fine. But if that traffic's going back into your local data center and it's destined for something in-house, you still have to think about security from an internal perspective. So firewalls still matter, right? You've got to think about that entire security stack, if you will. Endpoint security is still critically important. So you've got to think about not only the client, whether they're sitting again in a campus environment, or as we start to return to the office, or they're in a branch, or they're at home. You've got to think about endpoint security. So how do you ensure that those users are not infected with some sort of malware, and then in turn affecting the entire organization? And then, of course, there are going to be customers that do things 100% in the cloud, but I would say that's probably a rarity. I think the statistic is by 2022, which is right around the corner, we'll probably see 50% of mission critical apps living in the cloud. That also means 50% are going to be living on-prem, which means that, again, premise-based security is very important. So my encouragement there is just think about SASE's not an end-all, cure-all for everything. Certainly it gives you that security, again, for those cloud-destined workloads, but the things that reside locally, you still need that local security posture and that policy that really makes a difference.
Yeah, it makes sense. Do you want to talk about how, I mean, while we're touching on remote work, talk about how some of these cloud-based applications can really empower employees working in this new hybrid environment?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're doing it now, Steve. Normally, I would have had to fly to you, or you would have had to fly to me, or we would have had to coordinate a meeting room and all that type thing. But because of the power of WebEx, obviously we're able to jump on. And you and I are so good at this by now. We don't even have to prep, Steve. We spend 30 minutes, all kidding aside. But we jump on, we do a little prep work. The two ladies that joined us earlier are on getting us ready, and then they jump out. So we had 4 people in a meeting. You and I reduced it down to 2. But my point is, the beauty of these collaboration solutions is they do really allow you to work effectively from anywhere. I'm on my Desk Pro today. Hopefully the video is looking good. Very patriotic feeling after Memorial Day and July the 4th coming up. So I had to do a little wall wash here. But the beauty of these solutions is whether you're talking about a hard endpoint, using the WebEx directly on your laptop, or you're accessing it from your mobile device, the power of the technology now really does allow you to work from anywhere. And then you mentioned security earlier. When you think about our platform, security has to be an imperative, right? From every aspect of this, including your collaboration platform. You don't want people jumping into meetings that shouldn't be here. You don't want people hijacking your traffic in the middle of a call. There are critical functions, of course, in government that are even more powerful. And then that's just one element of it. This is the worker piece. A couple of cool things that are coming in the platforms. Matter of fact, I saw it show up on my unit today. No longer do I have to click the hand raise button to ask a question. I can just hold my hand up, and the system actually recognizes the gesture and puts that up for the moderator. I can do a thumbs up, I can smile, all those type things, and it automatically captures that. And you asked me an interesting question earlier, Mark, what if the dogs bark? Well, we've got technology built in now that, people are working from home. We've got all kind of a chaotic background going on. It blocks out that noise, but it doesn't inhibit a quality environment. And then we saw legislatures, lawmaking, who would have ever thought it, over virtual means for a very long time. And even though they're going back and they will be face to face, that has significantly changed the face of how we legislate, which means faster lawmaking, right? More visibility into that. And then as you bring these collab solutions into the environment, things like trusted workplace, we call it. So the ability to have WebEx Assistant through voice activate a meeting. Notify me when I walk into a room, how many people should be in the room because of spacing, all those type things. So it's more than just a video call or a phone call. Really, it now is a true system that allows you to work effectively with everybody. Every meeting going forward will have a hybrid worker in it, which means you really have to think about things like, is this person getting an opportunity to speak up, right? Mark talks a lot. We need to be able to pace him and allow other people to speak up. So all of those things are being delivered into what we call this 10X experience, which we hope really delivers that ability to deliver 10X remotely or in a hybrid mode, which you would get in person.
Yeah, Mark, that really interesting how that technology is evolving. Thank goodness for the dog bark capability. But also interesting that, yeah, these tools are going to be part of our life, regardless of whether you're in the office or remote, right? Because in that hybrid environment, you're always going to have that mix. And these platforms, will need to be better and better to support that experience and give everybody an equal experience.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, before we end off, anything else organizations ought to think about as they position themselves for the future of cloud deployment?
Again, I would just say, Steve, I think everybody starts now with the application experience. We just talked about the experience of interacting with colleagues, lawmaking, telemedicine, you name it. That's an application experience. Applications themselves that we are very familiar with, mobile apps, right? How do you evolve the citizen or resident experience through more high caliber mobile applications that allow them to renew licenses, get certifications for or building permits, all those type things, right? So all of those services that used to be very face-to-face, used to require you going in and standing in a very long line, a DMV, I think we're all familiar with that. Reimagining all of that and rethinking how we can deliver a quality experience helps both the residents. It certainly helps our government employees be more efficient with what they're doing. And then I think at the end of the day, what it all gives us the ability to do is just enjoy a better life, right? As citizens of our respective states, cities, counties, that type thing. So it really is about that application experience at the end of the day, and that application can be a lot of different variants.
Yeah. So there's some work ahead of us, but big opportunities.
Big opportunity.
Serving the public and improving that government to constituent experience.
Absolutely.
Mark, thanks for joining us. As always, really appreciate the insights and the conversation.
Absolutely, Steve. I appreciate it.